to improve. We're always an awkward opening. Hey, we're live. All right. Welcome.
What's up? So welcome to another what, Mike? What, Mike?
Nothing. I didn't know if I was supposed to be saying stuff yet.
No, it's no.
It's no. You. Go ahead.
Camera's on, Rich.
Start yakking.
Okay, so welcome everybody to another one of our usually weekly, sometimes every other week interviews that we do with hard rock and metal musicians and people in the industry. So I'm Rich Catino from MetalAsylum.net and Bravewords and the Metal Hall of Fame and Sea of Tranquility. And I'm joined by my partner in crime every week, Mr. Jack Mangan, on my...
You got your direction wrong.
Over there. Yeah.
Yes.
Over there.
Yeah, we'll figure that out one of these weeks. Yeah, hey everyone, Jack Mangan. I'm rocking the Black Sabbath shirt tonight. Jack Mangan of Am I Evil, the graphic novel, which is funded and it's in under construction. And thank you actually to Michael Alago for doing a little thing for us for that months ago. But I get ahead of myself. Yeah, I'm with Metal Asylum and the Metal Hall of Fame. So and Tom Hazard says, "Hey kids, hey Tom." But anyway, I can't talk about me. We got to talk about our special guest, who's someone who's really amazing. Someone I actually talked to for the first time in February. One of the most interesting people I've ever talked to in this business, Michael Alago. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hey, thank you for having me. Sure.
So I guess I have to ask, because I'll just set this up really quickly. You and I chatted in February when we talked, and we kind of chuckled at the end, like, "Oh, I got to go out and buy some hand sanitizer." Ha ha ha. And then 2020 happened. So,
really?
Yeah, that's. I remember that.
Now I have a dozen different hand sanitizers in my bathroom. I'm obsessed, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's the new normal, right? So, tell us, man, how has 2020 been for you since February?
Sure. 2020 has been interesting. I had a book that came out March 6th, my memoir called I Am Michael Alago, Breathing Music, Signing Metallica, Beating Death. So March 6th, it's a Friday night. I have this nice sold-out little show at the Bowery Electric, and people came to hear me read and to purchase books. So sold out at Bowery Electric is like 110 people. And I sold about 80 books that night, and it was Friday night. And everyone was coming to the table. Can you dedicate this? Can you do this? Can you do that? And, I'm happy to do all this kind of stuff and answer any questions that people have. But, everybody wants to sit on my lap and they want to hug me and they want to kiss me. And, then fast forward 5 days, 6 days, and it's something like, the 12th of March. And, here we go. We hear all about it on the on every news channel. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, fuck, I probably have, coronavirus. Literally almost every single person hugged me that night. And it's like kissing me and all this kind of stuff. And it was fun. Anyway, that Thursday, I also had tickets for a Broadway show. And so my lawyer, Lauren, called. She said, turn on the TV. And I'm like, uh-oh. Did did somebody die or something? And she just said, no, but listen. And that's when they started to say, Broadway's closing down as of tonight. And there's this pandemic. So, unfortunately, my book came out during the pandemic. So I do every single podcast that's asked of me, every single Q&A. I'm on social media every single day. And I think I sold about 2,000 books, which is kind of a lot when you're doing shit on your own with no help from a publishing company. And they helped me initially. But then when all this stuff happened, everybody went on furlough. So, so I talk about my book all the time whenever I can. It's on Amazon.com. It's $20. So it's filled with great stories. But for the first 4 months, because I have a compromise, hey, Tom, how you doing? Ellison has told you some funny stories. So, because I have a compromised immune system. So the first 4 months I stayed at home and I watched too much MSNBC. I started standing in front of the TV, yelling and screaming at it. And then when I got tired, I would flip over to all these great black and white movies on TCM, you know, anything with Humphrey Bogart and John Garfield and all those great characters, all that black and white film noir stuff just took my head somewhere else. And, you know, I don't know, here we are. And, you know, there's still no vaccine for the virus yet. And, you know, if you ask me, I always say to people, please, when you're outside and if you're going to be in groups of people, wear your face covering. And when you get home, sanitize your fucking hands. Because, you know, we touch all this stuff. And we just got regular germs, but now on top of that, we have COVID germs. So I'm always sanitizing my hands. And, you know, like if I see people acting like ignorant on the street and they are in clusters and they don't have masks on, I just cross the street. Like I just can't be bothered, you know. But I do believe that, you know, it helps you and it helps me from spreading it to each other. So I don't know. Here we are. And I don't have fear, but I'm very cautious about this whole thing.
Right. We have to be. I mean, yeah, that's the right way to live.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, well, since you brought that up, have you been on the subway? I've been
on the subway a lot. I'm crazy. I bring my hand wipes with me. I wipe the seat. I wipe the part of the seat where my legs bend. I wipe the back. I mean, like I'm crazy. But you know what? I don't care. I want to just stay as sanitized as possible. And you know what? Listen, if God forbid something's going to happen, it's going to happen. But I don't want to be careless. But yes, I've been on the subway many a time, whether it's to meet someone to go take their picture, because I'm working on a series of portraits right now, or if I go to the doctor or something. I'm just careful. I'm not like on the train touching stuff. You know, I go to my seat. And I just stay right there and I read the newspaper and until I get to my destination.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I was just curious because I just always remember the subway. Like 10 years ago, that guy was like the crazy guy. The guy who was wiping everything down. Now that's the sane guy.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, it's funny. I've been lucky that every time I get down to the subway station, I'm always seeing the MTA guy just getting off the train the train itself from just cleaning everything. So I see, and it smells clean. And so, yeah, you know, I can't worry about everything. I just take precautions in this day and age.
Yep, yeah. As we all do.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, Rich, I don't know. We're getting some comments. I'll put them up on the screen as we go.
Great.
Rich?
Well, you know, Tom, we've seen Tom's name here forever.
Yeah. Oh, we've got, you know, we've had another one come in. We've had some comments, but yeah, I'll leave them up. Or we're here. We'll hide them. Sorry, Tom. There you go.
No, but like we want to see them, but when we see them, you know. Well, fantastic book. Oh, Laura, thank you so much. You know, I worked really hard on my book, and the only reason the book got made is because ever since I was 15 years old, I kept journals. I have no idea what, you know, this little Latino kid from Brooklyn was doing, keeping journals. But, you know, it was nothing fancy. I just wrote in those early days, like lists, going to CBGB, stayed out late at night, tomorrow's Madison Square Garden. And those lists went on for years until it became creative writing, until it became like real journaling. And literally, if I did not have those diaries, journals, call them what you will, I would have never gotten through a book because I don't remember half my life. And there are friends that remind me, wait, you don't remember you took me to Billy Idol at the Beacon? You don't remember you took me to opening night of Bette Midler at the Copa? No, I don't remember any of this. So my diary saved me, and just to be shameless, I got a little book out called Am Michael Alago. Breathing Music, Signing Metallica, Beating Death. And like I said, it's $20 on Amazon. And again, here we are.
Yeah, we reviewed it. I agree with Laura DiMiola. It is a fantastic book.
Oh, thank you so much.
So, Rich, I know you had some questions, right? You want to fire away? I don't want to keep stepping on any questions you have.
No, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. So for the people that are out there that don't know you,
yes,
and you have a movie, there's a movie about you on Netflix. Who the fuck is that guy? So
yes,
people who don't know who the guy is, Can you
Sure.
give people just a little brief synopsis of why they should know you from hard rock and heavy metal?
Absolutely. There's a documentary out about me called Who the Fuck Is That Guy? The Fabulous Journey of Michael Alago. It just ended its 3-year run on Netflix and Amazon Prime. So I think the only place you might be able to see it right this minute is on YouTube, and you could rent it for like $4.99. There's a great wait a minute, my brain stopped again. Oh yeah. So I was in the music business for 25 years. I was an A&R executive, and I worked on every kind of record you can imagine, from Metallica to Tracy Chapman, Nina Simone to White Zombie, Cyndi Lauper to Swans, and I just love music. And I say in my book, I've loved music since I came out of the womb. So that's what I did for A&R. I did A&R. I was behind the scenes for over 25 years. So Drew Stone directed, and Michael Alex produced this film about me. Now, the beauty of the film is we got back the rights to our film, which people don't friggin' get rights back. There was like something that happened, and the company went Chapter 11, and we got our movie back. Now, the beauty of that is, I'm probably telling too much right now, but don't matter. I got to keep that movie out there. What Drew and Michael and I are thinking of doing is making it like a 15-minute epilogue, like Alago 2021, so to update what I've been doing since it came out in 2017. So we're really excited about that, and we're going to look to see who may now want to distribute our film again. So it's really kind of great. So I think that's a little bit of an update of who I am. Yes.
That's great.
How involved were you with Metallica at the beginning?
Well, I signed Metallica in August of 1984, the night after they played Roseland. It was an auspicious night. It was a Megaforce night, and it was Raven, Anthrax, and Metallica. Metallica were the middle band. I had seen them twice before. I saw them with my friend Phil Cavano from Monster Magnet at Lemoore in Brooklyn. I only live 7 blocks away from Lemoore. I'm pointing this way, down on Utrecht Avenue in Brooklyn. And I would walk there, and I would stumble home drunk. So I saw them there in 82 with the notion that I would, because I was booking the Ritz, which everybody knows as either at the Ritz or as Webster Hall. And the notion was I would book them at the Ritz. It never happened. So I start my A&R job at Elektra Records sometime in 1983. I knew the guys. I had business to do on the West Coast, and I knew the guys were playing at the Stone in San Francisco. So I went to see them there. Totally friggin' blew my mind. I say this all the time. James Hetfield is a ringleader on stage. He knows how to whip a crowd into a frenzy. He is a very charming and charismatic person up on that stage, and that's what you need in great artistry: charisma and people who know how to tell a story. So at the Stone in San Francisco, I gave Lars my card, and he looked at me like, wait a minute, you're a record executive? And I was like, yes, I work for Elektra Records. And I tell people this all the time. I probably had a Plasmatics t-shirt on, and he looked at me as if we're going to entrust our lives to this person. So anyway, fast forward, months go by. I'm just doing my job. I get a call from him in the beginning of 84. And he says, are you still interested in us? I said, damn right I am. We'll figure out how to maneuver, how to get you out of one deal into a new deal. So that's when that August of 84 gig happened. They were the people it was a sold out crowd at Roseland. And they were the band, they were the talk of the town. So they were the band that everybody wanted to come and see and hear. And they destroyed the place. And, the next day they showed up in my office for, I always tell people this, it's the same story, but I don't mind, for Chinese food and beer. And it feels like they never left, almost as if the rest is history. And, so since it's 84, I don't think there were CDs out yet. So I gave them tons of cassettes and vinyl of the MC5, the Doors, the Stooges, Cliff Burton, God rest his soul. He loved all the esoteric stuff. So at first he said, do you have Simon and Garfunkel? I said, Cliff, We don't have Simon and Garfunkel. But if you really want it, I'll call Columbia and I'll get you Simon and Garfunkel. So what he wanted, he knew we distributed this kind of esoteric label called Nonesuch. And so I gave him everything that was on Nonesuch. Things that were atmospheric, things that were noises in the jungle, birds chirping, like just out there stuff. And he loved it. And, you know, to this day, we all talk about Cliff so lovingly because, you know, oof, to die at 24 years old, at the beginning of your life, third album in a career that everybody knew was skyrocketing. But you know, I'm sorry I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I always like to talk about Cliff because he was too funny and too smart, and he really was such an extraordinary musician. And, you know, I liken him a little bit to Jaco Pastorius in that if Cliff was alive today, I think he would be making solo records, solo bass records, with everybody in the industry wanting to be on his record. I mean, he was really quite a lovely character. I used to tease him about those elephant bell bottoms, you know, the blue jeans that covered your feet and everything. And he used to just say, Alago, fuck off. Can you get me a beer? And, you know, unfortunately, I only saw Cliff a few times because I signed them in '84. I'm on the East Coast. They're on the West Coast. And then I would go see them on the road. And then, you know, September of '86 is when they were in Europe and Sweden. That's when he was killed. And I have no idea what question you asked me, but here we go. This is how it happens. I just go off on tangents. Yes, it is all connected.
Yeah, please, Michael, come on. No, I'm kidding. This is exactly what we want. I love these stories. And, you know, I get chills, literally get chills. You talk about Cliff Burton. So I love it, man. Keep the stuff going.
You know, this is funny. And Lars, I don't even know how I remember it. I don't know if they had just played the Lyceum and nobody wanted to go out to dinner but Cliff and Lars. So I took them to this really, really fancy restaurant on Neal Street, which was in Soho in London. And so, you know, look at them, you know, look at all of us late night after a gig, and we have a real nice table. And all of a sudden, and I reminded Lars of this when I was on his show, It's Electric. All of a sudden, I thought Cliff, who I didn't know or think did drugs, he like sniffed something. And I went, Cliff, you can't do cocaine here. He said, brother, I don't do cocaine. It's purple snuff. You know, like, I don't know if you remember this, like snuff that you could get at like you know, stores that sold pipes and stuff. And I guess it gave you like a little lift, but I don't know. I just thought that was the funniest thing ever. Yeah, brother, it ain't cocaine. It's purple snuff. All right.
That's
I hardly ever. I don't even think I put that in the book or anything. It's just it was too short. But you know, sometimes these things just pop into my head. Like I don't remember what I did last weekend, but 1986 on certain occasions, things just pop up.
No, I would remember that story. That's not in the book, but you should do. See, you know, since we have Tom watching, you should do what Tom and David did. They did more Life with Death. You can do more I Am Michael Alago.
Right,
you know, in your second book. But so I did want to follow up on that a little bit. And then Rich, I want you to the next one. But so you and Johnny Z from Megaforce are actually good, though, right? Even though you kind of pulled this coup and stole his.
Listen, you know what? We became colleagues very, very early on. He knew I was a young executive at Elektra Records. I was 22 years old. I got this extraordinary job. When I got the job, I had to call friends and ask, what does A&R mean? They laughed in my face. Artists and repertoire. And I learned very early on what the job entailed. So anyway, John had this little label called Megaforce, totally independent label. They made records, but I don't think they really had good financing in order to get bands on the road and market and promote them properly. So he thought Raven was going to be the biggest band in the whole wide world. And he said, I really want you to sign Raven. And I love the Gallagher brothers. I love Wacko. There were nights when I used to get drunk at their gig and Wacko would just throw me over his shoulder and deposit me at my hotel door. And he'd be like, see you tomorrow. So I gave John $5,000 to do these Raven demos. I got their demos back couple of weeks later, they were fantastic. But the problem was I heard Kill 'Em All. And, you know, when we all heard Kill 'Em All, we never heard anything like that before. I don't think. I never heard. You know, we were listening to all of our favorite bands out there, whether it was Alice Cooper, whether it was Judas Priest, whether it was the Scorpions or whatever. But we never heard anything like that. These were young people who were putting together British heavy metal, traditional hard rock, something we soon started calling thrash, speed, and a bit of punk. And it was like this melding of sounds, and that's what Kill 'Em All sounded like to me. So, you know, at some point, John was not too happy with me because I said I don't want to sign Raven, but I do want to sign Metallica. And you know, listen, it's all a business in the end. So Megaforce's business affairs people talked to Elektra's business affairs people. You know, an incredible deal was worked out, and everybody walked away happy. And that's how shit should happen. You know, we don't do things on the sly. We tell I tell the truth. It gets me into trouble, but I don't care. And you know, to this day, we still speak. You know, I think the last time I saw him maybe was like a year and a half ago, or oh God, already 2 years ago at Venom Inc. in Brooklyn or somewhere, or the Gramercy, you know. But yeah, it's all good. I love John. I've loved him from day one, and Marsha and their daughters, and they're just dedicated, awesome people, like we are, dedicated to music.
Exactly. Yes, I compare myself to John Zazula every day. Yes.
Well, we don't have to compare ourselves, but you know, we're all in this together when you think about it.
Yeah. No, of course. All right, Rich, I know you had more questions you wanted to bring up, right?
Okay. So in the 80s, you know, metal was huge. So many bands, so many great albums, everything. Was there a band you passed on and you're kicking yourself later that you didn't pick them up?
People ask me this all the time. And, you know, since I still have like a half of a brain, like from all the drinking and drugging, my brain never came back like it should. You know, I'm a person who doesn't have regrets. You know, I always felt like there's only a limited amount of albums on artists that you could sign to a label without not being able to take care of them. But if you ask me if there's a band that I could have worked with personally on a label, it would have to be Slayer, and no one else but them. They're extraordinary. I've been going to see them since day one. I went to the Garden. Wait, you know what? I think it was a year ago, 2 nights ago, maybe, that it was the last night of the last 2 nights. The last night was in Los Angeles of the Slayer tour. So I don't regret not signing them. I just, you can't have everyone in your life. And that's just really how it is. But if you ask me if there's any artist that I would have loved to work with on a label, it would be them. They're extraordinary. I mean, there really is. They're another band that there is no one that sounds like them. Same thing like Metallica.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, great answer. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jack. What you got?
Here, you know what? Actually, I'm going to post a question from Bruce Campball.
Oh, Bruce. Are you from Long Island, Bruce? Like, can we see people chat in this thing on the right?
There's a thing on the right, which I think we can all see.
Anyway, Bruce, we love you, Bruce. Okay, listen, I love Borgo Pass. I think James is an extraordinary singer. I saw them a few times in Long Island, and that's why I put them in my documentary. You know, their sound is pretty traditional, but, you know, when you have an extraordinary singer and you write terrific songs, you know, I want to be there to help you. So the way I was able to help Borgo Pass was to put them in my film at the very end so that when the credits were rolling, you could hear some really cool hard rock and roll. So right now, because of the pandemic, you know, ain't nobody going anywhere to perform live. At least we have gotten some of our favorite artists on what is that called, YouTube, who have gone into separate rooms and made music. So do I still work with them? I guess not right this very second, but if something comes up and they need my help and I love the songs, of course I would want to work with them. I think they're extraordinary people, and I only want to work with good people. Life's too short for anything else. Borgo Pass.
I don't know if do you see Bruce Campbell says he's from Canada.
Oh no! How come we only still see his little?
Oh, that's. I guess only I can see that. All right, we're still figuring this shit out.
Oh, so wait. Let me see if I put something in the chat.
The comment, I can still see it across my screen.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, but
see in the private chat. What's it? You know what? Forget it. Okay. Anyway, do we have any other questions out there?
Well, I mean, Tom Hazard also said, I think referring to the name of what should be the name of your book, I think he says, no, it's Airplanes and Restaurants, which I don't know if that's an inside joke, but yeah. Tom, thanks, Tom. Says only those can see the comments. So sorry, we're fucking amateurs here. Sorry.
Okay, fine.
But so yeah, and you have, we've become Facebook friends. You have the most amazing people in your personal circle. I'm just blown away by all the people that you just hang out with, like Phil Anselmo and Doyle Frankenstein. And you talked about Slayer. You got Gary Holt. You got all these BFFs. And I know we talked about that in February. Tell us about some of your amazing BFFs across the music industry, from Nina Caputo to Kurt Vanderhoof to everybody. I mean, tell us about your BFFs. Name drop.
Okay, good. As an A&R person, I only signed things that affected my soul. When people said to me, oh man, other A&R people were saying, like, dude, that band's going to be big. That's nice. I hate them and they mean nothing to me. So if I even thought about signing a band that I didn't like, but because everybody else said they're going to be huge, I couldn't live with myself. So you know what? When I heard Metal Church's first record, I thought David Wayne was an extraordinary singer. He reminded me a little bit of Halford. So I signed them. Flotsam and Jetsam, they did a one-off for Brian at Metal Blade, and they made Doomsday for the Deceiver. And so at one point, all this stuff, there was a confluence of stuff happening because Jason Newsted reached out to me, sent me that record with all of his press. He's a real go-getter. And I wound up signing Flotsam as well. Where am I going with this? What are we talking about?
We're just talking. Well, yeah.
A BFF. So you know what? Like I said, I only signed artists that I loved, and I always told artists the truth, whether they wanted to hear it or not. And I think, you know what? People know that I am totally dedicated to music. Music is my life. And now photography as well. So I don't know. I just wound, because I'm a person who has been behind the scenes for 25, 30 years, I just stayed friends with lots of people. Everyone from John Lydon, who I've never had a fight with in 39 years, almost 40 years. And I've, to Gary Holt, to James Hetfield, to Lars, to Cyndi Lauper. I mean, it's just worked out that way. I mean, I've had some rough times in my life, but I have extraordinary people in my life who have my back and I have their back. And, it's a wonderful thing.
Cool. All right, Rich, what do you got?
So what newer hard rock and metal bands do you like? Can you give us some names, people who you think should be recognized more?
Well, I recognize more, but there are 3 artists that I love right this minute. None of them are radio friendly, and that's exactly how I like my music, not radio friendly. So when people used to say, well, did you just hang out and see all those bands on the Sunset Strip? No. None of that stuff interests me. Top 40 doesn't interest me. I always liked things that were brutal and that assaulted my senses. So right now there are 3 young bands that I love. One's called Ether Coven. They're from South Florida. And if you like I Hate God and Crowbar and Swans, you'll like Ether Coven. They have a record out now called Everything is Temporary Except Suffering. And they're extraordinary. Eric Rattan from Morbid Angel produced this record, and it's just awesome. There is a band that I just heard recently called Plague Years, and they have a single out called, I don't know, but the album is called Circle of Darkness. Fabulous. ripping record, brutal, not radio friendly. And then another band called The Offering, and their single is called Ultraviolence. So those three bands are new artists that are up and coming that I'm listening to. And I always talk about them when I do interviews because, you know, when you think about it, some of these new artists, this is like their first record that has come out during the friggin' virus, when all of a sudden all these young people thought they were going on the road and they have to stay home and they have no income and they may have to go back to some of their old jobs, excuse me, that they had. So, you know, I always support independent music. I always support young artists. And since you asked, those are the three bands that I've been listening to.
Cool.
And they're heavy.
And I thought you were going to say Oceans of Slumber, because I know that's a band that I've seen you talk about, and yeah, they're
Dauber, don't yell at me. And Cammy, yeah, Oceans of Slumber, incredible band. I know about them because they did a cover of Billie Holiday's "Strange Fruit," which is about lynching in the South in the 40s of black men and sometimes women, and they did a devastating cover of this song. And not many people could or should cover a song like Strange Fruit. So that's how I got to know them and know about them. And they made a pretty damn cool record that I believe just came out on Century Media.
Yeah.
So like I said, sometimes my brain just stops working, but thank you, Jack, for reminding me.
That's what I'm here for. Yeah, I know that I saw you. You know, they're friends of our show, and we know that. Yeah, they're great people, a great band, absolutely amazing. Yeah, and Cammy's one of the most amazing front persons in the whole.
Beautiful, great voice, lovely people, great tattoos. Sure.
Yeah. All right. So, Rich, what else you got?
Okay. So how involved are you with promoting bands today? Or are you more focused on doing photography?
Well, I just promoted 3 bands on your show. You know, those 3-4 bands, I'm always talking about them on social media. I talk about them when I do Q&As and podcasts. And in this time of the pandemic, that's just the best that I can do, you know? I'm not their record company. I'm just a lover and a fan of the music that I just mentioned. So I just do the best that I can to help people out. And like I said, all I could do is talk about these things. And because I have a bit of a history and people listen to me, I just go, you better listen to these bands. That's like the best I think I could do these days.
So is like your focus is being a photographer as an artist?
My focus is to promote my movie and my book. Yes, I am taking photographs right now. I'm working on a series called Art in the Time of Coronavirus. And everybody wears a face covering. So that kind of brings in like the unity of the pictures. But, you know, everybody has a different look. And because everyone's face is covered, it's all about the eyes and what people can say with their eyes, or if it's about a look. Like I just shot yesterday, oh boy, my friend Rob Yules, he plays drums for Generation Kill with Rob Dukes. So Rob is in extraordinary condition. So I just said, take off your shirt, put on this mask with all these teeth, and just stand there and be strong. So, you know, sometimes that's all you have to say to people. And, you know, because most of my friends are hams anyway, they all want to, everybody wants their picture taken. And, you know, I'm always amazed at how many people are nude on the internet. I think to myself, oh my God, does anybody have any shame anymore? Anyway, I don't care. I love seeing him nude anyway. Not him, I mean, just people in general. But anyway, so yeah, I'm working on this series of pictures called Art in the Time of Coronavirus. And I've been talking to New York Magazine, and I just wrote to the New York Times, and I'm praying that they maybe do a little put a series of these pictures up. So yes, right now I've just been taking lots of pictures and just staying home and reading. And like I said, watching too much MSNBC and TCM, because there's not much more one can do in all of this. What are you doing? Rich.
Talking to you guys, doing a lot of these things.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, okay, that didn't answer. Jack, and you, what are you doing when we're not talking on the Metal Hall of Fame?
Oh, you know what I'm doing. I'm working on Am I Evil? My
Oh,
comic
Am I
book.
Evil? Your comic? Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we all know what each other is doing. Next.
Right. Well, and hanging out with the family. Yeah. And yeah, I keep them busy. Day jobs. Yeah. Life is busy. But you know, Michael, I will say, if you ever want the pasty, somewhat out of shape, middle-aged white guys for your books, you know, I'm your man. So.
Oh, thank you so much.
That's a joke. I'm kidding. Because Michael, it takes these amazing-looking men. Like that's been one of your focus, as I understand
The focus, built, tattooed, and scarred. I don't shoot models because it becomes homogenized. I just like brutes and oh, Tom, you'll never be nude on the internet. Well, darling, nobody's fucking asking you to be nude on the internet. We're just chatting up a storm here, and it just happened to come up.
Sorry, that completely interrupted your train of thought.
Completely through Jack. Okay, what else, Jack? Rich, what are we doing?
Jack, what do you got? Or you want me to throw him one?
Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, go ahead, Rich. I got a million. Go ahead.
Okay, so can you tell us a story or two, like a wild story? Obviously, you got to, change the names and everything to protect the innocent, that deal.
You need to protect the guilty.
Or the guilty or the innocent,
well, that's
whatever.
what you're doing. You're really protecting the guilty. But go ahead, please. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
A good, funny, fun road story from, your time out there with all these bands.
So it's very early on when I signed Metallica. Lars happened to be in New York. He came over to my house really early and we started drinking. So at some point we wound up at the Trash Bar on McDougal Street. So, it's 84 and they were the talk of the town. So when everybody, whether it was Circus of Power, Raging Slab, Shauna and Rob, we were all at Trash Bar. And people were like, oh my God, that's Lars from Metallica. So it's almost like 4 o'clock in the morning and I lose Lars and I'm thinking, oh no, like where did he go? So somebody said he's in the middle of the street. He's in the middle of friggin' McDougal Street with his pants down around his ankles, pissing in the middle of the street. You never saw me run out and pull somebody's pants up faster than I pulled his pants up. And I don't say that out of school because I remind him about this all the time. So that's a quickie, so to speak. Let's see. Oh, I have a good one. So Metallica and Metal Church are playing in London. I'm not sure if it was the Hammersmith or the Lyceum. So I was drunk really early on. So one of the journalists from Kerrang put me in a shopping cart and wheeled me down King's Road. And the minute they got me to the venue, they just threw me out of the shopping cart. I hardly remember anything. And I run into the theater and I'm headbanging to Metal Church. Ron Lafitte, their tour manager, at some point just comes up to me and said, dude, your whole head is bleeding. What's going on? And I'm like, whatever. So I don't remember the rest of the night. I fell asleep on the floor in Kurt Vanderhoof's room, not even in a bed, that my head got stuck to the rug. So when I woke up, all of that, I got peeled off, and Ron comes in to collect everybody. He's like, Michael, your head is still bleeding. And it was like, well, it was dry when I laid down last night. I mean, these are the things that happened all the time because I was always drunk. But I always had such a good time. And I signed good bands. So I had to have some sense of knowing what I was doing. But that was a really fun night. Yeah. Like my head just was like, Ron just had to wound up bandaging it in the morning because, I fell asleep on the floor and it just completely dried. Let me see what else is there.
In a quick related question, do you like newer Metal Church now? Since they've still been going on?
Well, it's a shame that our dearly beloved David Wayne died. I don't remember what year that was. Let's see. Maybe 87, 88. I picked up Metal Church when I heard the album. They had a local manager named Willie, and he was really kind. And they had sold a couple of thousand records in the Seattle area. So I picked them up, and then I wound up making a record with them called The Dark, that Mark Dodson produced, and it's an extraordinary record. And then our sweet darling, you know, David just didn't take care of himself, and I believe he got into like some kind of an accident, and his leg was all fucked up, and it wound up getting gangrene. And there was a whole host of things that were involved, and he passed away. So Kurt Vanderhoof, I believe, knew about Mike Howe, and he jumped on board right away. Yes, I still love Metal Church. I think one of their more recent records that I love is called Generation Nothing. Mike is an extraordinary front man. He's very lively on stage. He's a charming human being. And yes, I still love Metal Church no matter what. And Kurt Vanderhoof is a very, very dear friend of mine.
Cool. Sorry, I interrupted you.
What?
I interrupted your story.
You did?
Yeah, you were thinking of another funny story from the road.
Well,
I'm still thinking about it. When it pops up, oh, great, this is another one. Oh, yeah. But, you know, it's in my book. I am Michael Alago, breathing music, signing Metallica, beating death. Okay, here we go. I love AC/DC. I love Brian Johnson. I find out that Dokken, who I wound up having to be the A&R person for, whether I liked it or not, because their A&R person left to go to Geffen. So I became their A&R person. I knew that it was time to make a live record. So they were going on the road with AC/DC in Europe. At some point, after that part of the tour, they were doing headlining dates in Japan. Why am I telling you this story? Oh, okay. So the night I get to, I don't know, whatever the largest venue in London is, I get there early because I have to be there for Dokken. And all of a sudden, I see a fist almost go through one of the dressing room doors. And I just figured, it's George. And of course it was George having another fight with Don Dokken. And so we had to get an ice bucket, stick his hand in there. And, you know, George is crazy and George is incredible and George is a trooper. So he wound up going on with the show. So fast forward, we have shows in Nagoya, Osaka, and Tokyo. So I tell this story in my book, and in the book, it's very, very funny. So George and I are like, I don't know if we were at the Hard Rock having sushi in Tokyo really late at night, down at all the sake that we can. We're so drunk that we're roaming around Tokyo in the middle of the night, and we just don't know what to do. How we found a gay disco on the 35th floor of an industrial building is besides me. George knew but before that, we wound up at like this straight bar club, famous, called the Lexington Queen. I tried to pick up some big beefcake. He didn't like it. He wanted to kick my ass. George wanted to kick his ass. We got thrown out onto the street, and that's when George and I were like laughing our heads off, not knowing where to go in the middle of the night. So we find this disco, and George knows I love that British pop group Dead or Alive, who do You Spin Me Round, but they had a single out called There Is Something in My House. So I went up to the DJ, who spoke very little English, because not many Americans. It was like an exclusive club on the 35th floor, and I said, can you play There Is Something in My House by Dead or Alive? And he said yes, and George and I went on the dance floor, and the next thing you know, I was in a blackout. But the story is a lot better and more involved in my book, but they just pop out of my head this way.
No, that's a good one.
You were working with Dokken for Beast from the East, the live album.
That's correct. I helped put that record together. They didn't give me those. I love that album. You can curse on this show, I guess, because we've been cursing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's a great album.
Those fucking cocksuckers didn't even give me a damn credit. And yes, I put the whole record together, and it was wild. Before I got to Tokyo, we had to find a mobile unit to tape the shows, of course. So I found this company that everybody said, this is the company that you have to go with. Everybody uses them. So we were sending faxes back and forth. So I sent a fax to this company, and I said, there was like an added yen. My brain stopped again. There was like this added money on this. Help me out, Jack.
was the facts about recording, about taping the
Okay, wait a minute. So on our recording budget, there was this extra like millions of yen. So I wrote back to the guy and I said, "This is not part of the budget. What is this for?" And he, in one sentence, he said, "For better communication." They were screwing us. But you know what? I'm in New York. They're in Tokyo. They wanted their money. So we had to give them all this extra money in order for everything to go smoothly. And so our shows in Tokyo, Osaka, and Nagoya were fantastic. And they were great. And we wound up making that record, which I think got nominated for a Grammy Award in maybe 1991, but don't quote me.
Somewhere around there, 89, 90, somewhere around there.
Sure, around that period of time.
Yep. So I did not put two and two together. Yeah, you were there because I've heard that story is in the book. It's one of the more memorable ones. But yeah, I didn't put.
It's a very, very funny story in the book. Trust me.
So I got to bring up a non-metal one from the book that I think actually you're making it up. I think it's fiction. There's no way this could be true. I think you can't be telling the truth with this one. I love the Bruce Springsteen story where you somehow went backstage and found him with a hangnail. You're making it up. There's no way this story is true. Can you want to?
I love Bruce Springsteen. I think he's one of the greatest performers ever. I think it was on the River Tour. Now, keep in mind that even back then in the 80s, even though there was real security at big venues like the Garden and the Meadowlands and stuff, it's nothing. Security is not like anything today. All that security like today really happened after 9/11. You couldn't go anywhere. Even in New York, you couldn't go downtown unless you showed photo ID that you lived downtown. So I love Bruce Springsteen, and I decide I'm going backstage. And I just make my way backstage. And I see him there, and I knock on the door. I knock on the door before I come in, even though it's ajar. And I said, I absolutely love you. I don't know if you remember, I brought my scrapbook to the Calderon Concert Hall and you signed it for me. And he said, no, I really don't remember that. But yeah, I said, well, you kind of look miserable. And he said, I have this hangnail. And I looked at it and I thought about biting it off. But then I thought, oh, if I did that, he would really think I was crazy. So I helped him get the hangnail off and then put it in my pocket. And I swear to God, for the longest time, I had it in my 1977, 1978 journal. So I figured I have a little bit of Bruce Springsteen's DNA. Anyway, so the road manager comes in and goes, who's this kid? And he just said, oh, he's a fan. And the guy said, where's your backstage pass? I said, I don't have one. And he said, buddy, you got to get out of here. And he said, Bruce, 15 minutes. So, of course, the balls that I have, I had my little plastic Instamatic camera. And I said to the road manager, could you take our picture before I leave? And he just looked at me like, I got to get rid of this person. So he took our picture, and it's in my book. And yes, it's the truth. It's just an odd, funny story.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. Of course, I'm busting your chops. Of course, But no, I believe I do believe it. But it's just
you never know what's going to happen around me.
Yeah, I mean, you have similar stories about, like, I guess from the 70s, like Rocky Horror, right? Rocky Horror Live.
Yeah, I'm 15 years old. I hear about the show Rocky Horror from knowing about that Richard O'Brien wrote it, and it was a hit in London. The Village Voice, the weekly newspaper, became my Bible. In the Village Voice, you could read about music and art and theater and politics and pornography. I could have cared less about politics, but I loved everything else. I remember seeing a really wild ad that that Rocky Horror was coming to Broadway in 1975 to the Belasco Theater. They pulled out all the seats in the theater, and everything was like a nightclub. And I thought to myself, I got to go see this show. Now, back then, ticket prices were anywhere from like $7.50 to $10 to $12.50. And I went to Rocky Horror Show. And when I didn't have money, I would do what they call second act. When people came out to smoke and go back in for the second act, I would just sneak in and I would sit in an empty table, or if there was an empty chair. And so I was hanging out with these two people, this guy Frank Teddy and this gal who I'm still friends with, Sunny Bach, and they were paparazzi, young paparazzi. And so the show was over, and I said, oh, we got to go backstage. And they were like, wait, do you know Meatloaf or Tim Curry? I said, no, but we're going backstage. I had my little, I had a brown paper bag under my arm, because that afternoon I had went to Titus Oaks Records in Brooklyn. I don't remember what vinyl I bought. Anyway, I make my way backstage. Tim Curry and Meatloaf were coming out, and I just say to them, you know what, I love the show so much. I keep coming back. And Meatloaf said, have you been here like every night? I said, well, not every night, but I have come a few times a week. And I said, can we take a picture together? And they were so generous and so sweet. And they took that picture. That is, I don't want to say it's infamous, but it's kind of infamous, because here it is. Oops.
There you go.
I don't even know how to do this thing. Oh, and there's Rocky Horror down there, you know, wherever. Okay, listen, this is what's happening. There's the fucking thing.
Yeah, we see it. We see it.
Okay.
We see it.
Okay, don't get fresh. Yeah. So, So, I did that all the time. I just made my way backstage like I owned the place, and most of the time I got a very nice reception from people. That's the story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right. I think I believe that one too. Seems believable. I'm kidding. So yeah, what do you got, Rich? We're Jersey guys. You gotta give
you're wearing a Ramon shirt. So what's your connection to those guys, if any?
Well, this is a shirt that I got at the Ramones Museum in Berlin. When I was in Berlin last summer. They're one of my favorite bands. I was going to see them in 1975 at CBGB when they would play like 28 songs in 17 minutes, and that was their set. I became friends with Arturo Vega, who designed this logo. He was also their creative director, and he was their lighting guy. Arturo and I were friends for 30 years. Our birthdays are the same day, October 13th. Unfortunately, Arturo died June 8th, 2013, and that was 7 years ago. One of the great things that he did when he was alive is he got East 2nd Street named Joey Ramone Place. And that was really, he got the city to do. That was really cool. So my connection to the Ramones is Arturo Vega, and that they're one of my all-time favorite bands, and I would go see them anytime that I could go see them, East Coast, West Coast, up until like their last gigs in the mid-90s.
All right.
Awesome. Yeah.
By the way, we got about I guess we have a little bit less than 10 minutes. So if you have any more questions, then drop them in the chat. But yeah, we're Rich.
Is anybody asking you questions there that we can't see, Jack?
Yeah, well, those are private. No, I'm kidding. No, the last one actually was Tom Hazard saying he will never be nude on the internet. So
good, because we didn't ask.
so Rich, fire away. I mean, like I said, I've got a couple, but I've talked to Michael before. So
I know, but if people are listening now, they don't know we talked before. Anyway, Rich, what do you want?
All right. So since you've been in the industry, have you gotten any insight into what could happen maybe next year for concerts or things maybe happening in the city, possibilities or anything?
No, not at all. Listen, until the CDC, the WHO, the government, the scientists all figure out what this vaccine is going to be, nobody is going to take a chance to book shows. I mean, what? We're going to all be at a metal show and we're going to be 6 feet apart from each other. It's not going to happen that way. And people can't book places like Madison Square Garden in a half-filled house because you still got to hire all the union people and the electricians and the staging and everything. So, I saw an article from somebody from Live Nation that said they don't really think that live shows are going to really start happening in a big way until 2022. Yeah. I mean, I don't know any more information than that. And you know what? This year flew by. When you think in 7 weeks it's going to be 2021, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So no, I'm sorry, I don't have any great insight. You know, I always tell people, since you're not out there, if you have an album out, you have merch out, you have stickers out, you have CDs, put yourself on social media in a very big way. It almost feels like everything is very DIY, do it yourself these days. But if that's how you got to do it, that's how you got to do it. If you need to make a video, it doesn't have to be perfect. Have your friend next door film you, put your best foot forward, and give us the best song on your album. I know you didn't ask me any of this, but this is just like what I tell young bands when they're frustrated and don't know what to do. Put yourself out there in a big way, in the best way that you can, and just do all those things so you can make a couple of bucks.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's it. Yes, I have no great insight into what's happening. I don't think any of us do.
Right.
Yep.
Well, some people have ideas, but we should listen to them. But anyway, that's as much as I'm going to say on that. But what about, I know you talked about maybe doing, which I think sounds great. I hope you do the 2021 kind of follow up on the movie.
Yeah, well, this is just happening like right this minute as we speak. So everything is up in the air. We're just grateful that we have our film back, that we can do whatever we want with. That's a blessing, you know? So because it's like, I liken it to like record companies. Like, for instance, like, did we talk about this, about Metallica getting their masters back?
No, we actually no.
So at some point, it was 25 years later, and in their contract, that's what it said. You know, you get your masters back after 25 years. Boy, were they happy. So what did they do? They took Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, and Master of Puppets. They remastered it. They put it on their label, Blackened. They got an 80-page booklet together for each of those records, put it in a box, and that just got everybody reinterested in it. So, you know, with our doc, we're going to hopefully do this epilogue so that we get people. Nobody ever was not interested in the film. Like I said, we had a 3-year successful run on Netflix, and we hope to get back on there and back on Amazon Prime. And there's over 100 different platforms these days that we can get the film on, both here and abroad. So we're excited to do that. And just keep in mind, even though we have 4 minutes, I guess, unless we go overtime. Do you ever do that?
Oh, all the time. Yeah.
Oh, you do? Oh, fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we never even talked about White Zombie.
Right. That was on my list. Yeah. So let's go there. Let's talk about
wait, what else was on your list?
Oh, we got hours of shit on my list. So yeah, I want to hear
something else.
Well, I mean, I was really going to get to what else you have coming up. You know, it's I know promoting the book, promoting the movie. You've got your photography books. What else you got?
You know what? It's an old story. I've already told you all this. Rich, what else are we talking about?
All right, I'm going to go.
I want to hear the White Zombie story.
Yeah, I want to hear the White Zombie story.
The White Zombie story.
How'd you get connected working with them? Were you there at the beginning, like when they were coming around in the mid-late 80s, or after that?
Okay. Late 80s. They had put out a couple of records on Caroline Records, right. And those records sounded nothing like what we all know about White Zombie these days. My friend Daniel Ray, who plays with Ronnie Spector, the Ramones, Iggy Pop, is a producer. He was in Shrapnel from Red Bank, New Jersey back in the day. He was also in the Masters of Reality. He became a producer and a songwriter, and he was shopping 3 bands in New York City in the late 80s, Circus of Power, Raging Slab, and White Zombie. He got Raging Slab and Circus signed to RCA Records, but nobody wanted White Zombie. So, of course, he said, you know, Michael, this is a band that you're going to love. Figures. So he takes me to some little hole in the wall on Lafayette Street under this foo-foo shishi restaurant called Indochine in the East Village. And I guess it was called like Under Indochine. And it was like a black box. And I hear this noise coming out of this little black room. And I tell this in my movie, I tell this in my book, but it's one of my favorite stories to tell because I love White Zombie so much. In the corner, in the back, in the dark, there was this noise happening. And it was music to my ears, even though there really weren't such like great songs or anything. But I just saw these young people with dreadlocks and sweat and this noise happening. And I thought, oh, these people are for me. And I meant it, you know? So, when the show was over, I started talking to them, and I let them know that I was an A&R executive for Geffen Records, and they knew who I was by that point in time, because it had already been 5 or 6 years since I signed Metallica and signed other metal groups. So we started talking, and I loved Rob. He was all sweaty with all these dreadlocks, and I thought he's also a very charming and charismatic character on on stage, and that's always something that I look for. So he said to me, you know what? We're going to be big, and I'm going to make movies if you want to take a chance on us. And I loved his bravado, so I took a chance on them. I told everybody at Geffen Records, this is going to be a million seller. Backtrack a little bit. There was a Slayer record that we loved the sound of that Andy Wallace produced. So we had Andy Wallace produce our record, La Sexorcisto, Devil Music, Volume 1. He makes the record, we put it out, and all the Wednesday or Thursday, it was probably Wednesday, middle of the week, meetings. Oh, the brain. See, this is what happens when I get too excited. So every week we had these meetings about up and coming records, what was, getting released. And at some point, White Zombie had been out for a while, and it stalled selling at 180,000 units. And everybody looked at me like, oh, million seller, huh? And I had no answer. And we were marketing and we were promoting. And all of a sudden, these two little characters called Beavis and Butthead come along. And keep in mind, it's the 80s and MTV is hot. And they decide that White Zombie is their favorite band. And they start playing Thunderkiss 65, morning, noon, and night. And every time their show appeared on the television. So that was the thing, believe it or not, that catapulted that record to 1 million units. And it was almost like it was a godsend, that these crazy little characters and Mike Judge did this wild promotion on them. It didn't cost us a dime, and we were so grateful. And that was the thing that, blew the whole thing up. I remember one night, I think we were backstage, maybe it was at Pantera and White Zombie, and Scott Ian was backstage. We were all backstage, and all of a sudden this guy walked in, and we all looked at him like, who is this person? And I said, hi, can I help you? He said, yeah, my name is Mike Judge. And all of us just stopped what we were doing. It was like another rock star or something walked in, and we all asked him to either write on our arm. Could he draw like Beavis and Butthead on our arm? Somebody had like a napkin, and we were just thrilled. So that's a fun little story. There's more to that story that I'm not going to tell you because it's really fun and in my book, and it has to do with me and my assistant Tony calling Vincent Price to do a monologue on the album. And at first he said, you know what? I don't do any of that stuff anymore because I had the worst time in the world working on Michael Jackson's Thriller. But we were relentless until Vincent Price called my assistant. Her name was Tony. And they had a long conversation. And I'll leave it at that. And then somebody who I admire and love, who since has passed, was a film director named Russ Meyer. And he made movies with gals with big boobs. His most famous is Faster Pussycat, Kill Kill. And so Rob Zombie said to me, there's a line in Faster Pussycat, Kill Kill called Get Up and Kill. And it was when sampling was being questioned. And where did you get that sample from? Do you have a license for it? So I called Russ Meyer and I said, hi, may I speak to Russ Meyer? He said, this is Russ Meyer. I'm sitting here with a double hernia. What do you want? I was mortified. And I said, well, hi, my name is Michael Alago and I work for Geffen Records. And he said, stop right there. He said, you work for Mr. David Geffen? I said, I do. He said, do you think he wants to give me $450,000 to finish Up the Valley of the Ultra Vixens? Like, I'm totally thrown off. This is my first conversation with him. And I said, well, I really wasn't thinking about that, but I signed a little band called White Zombie, and we want to use a clip, some words from your movie. He said, well, how much are you paying me? I said, I don't know, about $1,000. When am I getting the money? I said, in the next couple of days. He said, well, how do I know you're telling me the truth? I said, give me your office fax number. I faxed him. He faxed me right back. And I had to tell Business Affairs, even though it took them weeks to get checks cut, I said, you have to cut this guy's check the next day. There's more to that story, but between Beavis and Butthead, Vincent Price, and Russ Meyer, it's all in my book. But there was always something going on with all the wild and crazy artists that I've worked with over the years.
Yeah, great stories.
That's a good one, though. That really is a good one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially bringing in such a legend.
Well, in the end, he got very, very sick, and he called Tony and he said, "You are relentless and you're nice, and it's the only reason I'm going to do it." So within 2 weeks, he declined. His health declined rapidly. And when we called management again, they said, Mr. Price is not going to be able to do it. And about a week later, we saw in the paper that he had passed away. And so I guess I did tell you that part of the story. But there's so many good anecdotes in my book, and it's an easy read. There's tons of chapters, and I think the longest chapter in my book is about Nina Simone, and it has probably like 22 pages. But it's an easy read, and it's about my life in the music industry. It's about addiction and recovery and health issues, and living in gratitude. And I don't drink or drug anymore. I just turned 61, and last month I had 13 years clean and sober. And I show up for life, and I show up for these interviews, and minus the pandemic, life is good. So I always tell people out there, please take care of yourself. Be kind to one another. Kindness is like a domino effect. If you are kind to one another, it happens. And that may sound corny to you, but I'm not friggin' what's her name? It doesn't matter. You just got to be nice to people, whether you like them or not, because in that domino effect, it just helps to make the world a better place. So.
Great.
Oh, that's really well said. Yeah. So I mean, like I said, we're okay. Like we have a lot more, but we'll let you get on with your life and your night and your evening. But I want to say,
I'm going to freaking sit here. I'm going to put on MSNBC. I'm going to then get sick of these people. I'm going to decide what TCM movie to watch. I hope there's something good on. I think I've seen that movie Gilda with Rita Hayworth and Glenn Ford 100 times. It was when she was at her most beautiful. It's a film noir, black and white, and it's one of the greatest movies ever. Gilda. It's great.
Actually, you recommended one. So remind me, Michael, because I just popped in your Facebook feed. You talked about the blonde actress from It's a Wonderful Life had a lead in kind of a suspenseful movie, and I don't remember. I'm drawing a blank. You said, "Oh my God, you got to watch her in this one," and then
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
But the actress I'm talking about, because actually I'm the only person in my house who likes old movies too, so I can never.
Well, it's like that old saying, they don't make them like they used to. And yes, there are there's too many options these days between Amazon Prime and Hulu and Netflix. I just look at these things and I go, wait a minute, I can't even function. Go to TCM. I love black and white. I love those old gangster movies. I love the whodunits. Even stuff like on Abbott and Costello, Meet the Wolfman. That's, I used to watch that every Saturday morning at like 11 o'clock I think it was on Channel 11, which was like WPIX network. There's so much out there. We have so much at our disposal. And, as incredible as technology is, it brings us apart, it pulls us together. But I'm thankful for the technology, because again, I'm sorry to have to bring up the pandemic. Here we are getting together and talking about music and artists that we love or that we've worked with, and it's all good. You just gotta take care of yourself out in that crazy world we live in.
Great.
No, well said. I will say really quickly, because like I said, we're gonna wrap in a minute. But the Metal Asylum interview from February of this year, we actually, Michael and I, we did cover a little bit more of the your addiction and recovery stuff, and we talked a bit about Nina Simone, even though she's not really metal, but we still covered some of that stuff.
Okay.
And I will encourage everyone to get
Greatness is greatness.
Yeah, exactly. And I will encourage everyone, check out the film however you can, check out the book.
Yep.
And then I'll shut up and let you guys kind of take us out, because and I'll say also thank you very much, Michael. It's been really
absolutely my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. I always love to tell good stories when I can remember them.
Great having you as a guest.
All right.
Rich, thank you so much.
Thank you all for watching. All right, we're gonna end. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks.
Peace.